So today's video is about strange things afoot within the empath brain. Now, although emotions are simply part of being human and something we all have to experience, empaths often experience emotions much more intensely than other people. We can become more upset easily, feel fear and nervousness more strongly, and when something knocks us down emotionally, it can take us much longer to find our way back up again. And for many empaths, this is one of the hardest parts of empath life. So today we're going to take a look at what is actually happening in the brain when we feel things so intensely, why we become so easily overwhelmed, and most importantly, some simple ways we can help ourselves to reset. Interestingly, research done by Dr. Elaine Aron into highly sensitive people, which also includes empaths, found differences in the way some highly sensitive people process emotional and sensory information. Other studies have also found stronger responses in brain areas involved in emotional processing when highly sensitive people are exposed to emotional or social information. A major part of the brain involved in processing emotions is the amygdala, and it is a small almond-shaped structure deep within the brain's temporal lobe, and it plays an important role in detecting things that may be threatening or emotionally significant. So the amygdala is it's sometimes described as part of the brain's alarm system, and it doesn't just sit there calmly analysing everything that happens. It can react very quickly, particularly when we encounter fear, stress, danger, or other strong emotional signals. And this is where the fight or flight response comes in. When the brain believes we are under threat, the body can release hormones including adrenaline and cortisol. Heart rate can increase, breathing can become faster, and the body prepares itself to respond. This is an incredibly useful system when there is genuine danger. The problem is that our brains can also respond to an emotional situation, thoughts and other forms of stress. So you don't necessarily have to be standing in front of physical danger for your body to feel as though something is wrong. So what can you do to lessen an amygdala activation? One of the first things you can do is become more aware of your triggers. So are there certain people who consistently leave you feeling emotionally exhausted? Or are there environments where you just feel overwhelmed and situations that you know will leave you anxious for hours afterwards? So try to avoid those. Learning to recognize these patterns doesn't mean you have to run away from everyone who makes you uncomfortable. It simply means becoming more aware of what affects you and giving yourself permission to protect your own well-being. The second thing is learning to take control of your thoughts. Now, our minds can keep a stressful situation alive long after it is actually ended. We can replay the conversations, think about what someone meant, wonder why they behaved the way they did, and imagine every possible outcome. Before you know it, something that happened 10 minutes ago has occupied your mind for the next 6 hours. And this is where getting outside or listening to music or simply doing something that takes your attention elsewhere can really help. You don't always have to solve every thought that enters your head. Sometimes you can let your mind be distracted from it. So like I said, listening to music or just distracting your mind by doing something that takes your attention elsewhere. It's also worth paying attention to stimulants such as caffeine. Now, if you're already someone who experiences anxiety or physical stress responses strongly, too much caffeine will make those sensations feel more intense. If you notice that caffeine leaves you shaky or makes you anxious, then it's probably worth listening to and maybe avoid caffeinated drinks and maybe opt for decaffeinated coffee instead. And then there's exercise. So for an empath, exercise isn't only about keeping physically fit, it can also be a really useful way of releasing some of the tension that builds up when you've been carrying stress throughout the day. You don't have to become obsessed about the gym, just like a walk, swimming or dancing, gardening or simply getting outside and moving your body can all give you an opportunity to step away from whatever has been going on in your head. And also don't underestimate the importance of what you eat and drink. Keeping your blood sugar reasonably steady by eating regular nutritious meals and avoiding excessive amounts of sugar or stimulants can help support your overall well-being. Your body and mind are not separate things, and the way you treat one can affect how you feel in the other. And lastly, but certainly not least, use breathing techniques whenever you can. This is something that is so simple yet so very effective. But sadly, it is breathing techniques that are often the last thing we turn to for rebalancing our emotions, even though they are so very effective. However, The caveat here is that you really need to practice them every day to get full benefits of nervous system and amygdala regulation. Doing them only when you're experiencing an emotional shitstorm is simply not enough. By using breathing techniques such as the many ones used in yoga, Wim Hof method, or Buteyko methods, don't know if I said that properly then, Buteyko, are all brilliant. Do an online search and find what works for you best. One that I love is the humming bee breath. So this is where on every exhale you do a humming sound. It sounds something like this. Take an inhale, and then as you exhale, simple but really effective. It's brilliant to do when out and about or just as your daily morning practice. The important thing is to remember that being an empath doesn't mean you are destined to spend your life overwhelmed by everyone else's emotions. Your sensitivity may be something you cannot simply switch off, but you can learn to understand it, learn what drains you, and learn what restores you. Remember to step away from people when you need some quiet, and learn to recognize when emotion you're experiencing may not actually belong to you. And perhaps the biggest thing you can learn is that feeling deeply isn't necessarily something you need to get rid of. It is something you need to learn to live with. Although being sensitive can be exhausting, I know, it can be one of the things that makes you compassionate, perceptive, and able to understand people in a way that others simply don't. So the aim isn't to stop feeling, it's simply to stop allowing everything you feel to consume you. Okay, that's it for me today. Until next time.